कर्मसु कौशलम् तं विद्यात् दुःखसंयोग वियोगं योगसंज्ञितं स निश्चयेन योक्तव्यः योगो निर्विण्णचेतसा. As we saw earlier, the disconnect is primarily within. In fact, in Vedanta, anything that one complains about means something is wrong. It's an inside job. Something is wrong here, and it's projected powerfully onto what is called in Sanskrit anatma, not I. So therefore, the sorrow is, because this is a verse that talks about freedom from sorrow. And what does it mean? Dissociation from association with sorrow is called yoga. And then verse 22 talks about how being established in this yoga, in the practice of this yoga, there is nothing greater than that. Yam labdhva na cha param labham manyate na cha adhikam tatah yasmin sthito na dukkhena guruna api na vichalyate. There is no gain greater than the gain of this knowledge, which is made conducive by the practice of this yoga, and then established in this, living in this. Then what happens? One is not derailed, disturbed by anything at all, even the greatest of tragedies. And what is that? That is dissociation from association with sorrow. This is what is called Jnani Lakshana. The definition of a Jnani is the one who is not moved by sorrow, who has, who understands the truth of oneself to be Ananda. Doesn't mean that sad events do not take place in the life of a person who has self-knowledge. This is what is generally called an enlightened being. Sad events do take place. But the person, it does not react in the same way as somebody who doesn't have this knowledge or who has not practiced this yoga. So the lakshana, the definition of a jnani, becomes a sadhana for the jnani wannabes. For the wannabe jnani, what do? You behave like the jnani. Huh? No, but isn't that pretentious? Isn't that, how can I feign to be a jnani when I'm not? Nobody is asking you to feign to be a jnani. You follow what they follow. What comes naturally to them, you deliberately cultivate. And that is what this yoga is all about, the deliberate practice of conscious dissociation from association with sorrow, well entrenched sorrow, dukkha samyoga. Then of course the question comes, how did this sorrow get well entrenched? Because the raga dveshas, the prejudices and preferences have been at play for a long time. They have been, left unbridled and have been at play. That is the main reason. But then association with sorrow suggests something. If I'm getting associated with sorrow, that means I was not connected to it in the first place. This is something wonderful. This is good news, that the sorrow is not intrinsic to the self, you cannot say. Because otherwise everybody will be crying in their sleep. It's copiously shedding tears, the pillow will, become all wet. But that doesn't happen in sleep. One is completely one with Ananda. There's nothing else. The sleep is most joyous. And then, In dream also it varies. Only in the waking state one wakes up crying, "Oh, what day is it? Oh no, Monday, I have so much to do, so little time, don't want to get out of bed." So that means what? That means that sorrow is not intrinsic to the self. Thank God. Thank God for this. This is very good news. Because if sorrow is intrinsic to the self, if sorrow is the reality of the self, to put it differently, then it cannot be removed. Oh, sorrow is not the reality of the self. Then it need not be removed. If sorrow is intrinsic to the self, it cannot be removed. If sorrow is extrinsic to the self, then it need not be removed because it's not affecting the self. We are in a very interesting quandary here. This is again one of the famous, what is that called, paradoxes of Vedanta. Very interesting paradox. So, if sorrow is real, it cannot be removed because the definition of real is abadhitam sat. That which is non negatable is real. And if sorrow is real, it cannot be removed. No, 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 sorrow is unreal. Then it need not be removed because why are you going to spend so much time on removing something that doesn't exist? You know, like the person who was sitting and trying to shave the forehead of his pet rabbit. What are you doing? I'm trying to remove the horns of the rabbit. But the horns of the rabbit do not exist. So if sorrow also doesn't exist, if it is nothing, it doesn't touch you, the Atma, it doesn't touch you at all, then what is there to remove? It cannot be removed. But on the other hand, if it is unreal, then it again need not be removed because for the same reason, same hetu. And what is the reason? That it is not causing any problems. So why should I remove it? It is simply there. But this is the paradox. Sorrow is not is anatma, but yet it affects the person. The person owns up the sorrow as it were. And then if we take the paksha, the side, the premise that the sorrow is extrinsic to the self, then we run into some other problems. Like what? Like you're afraid to go out without a mask because you may catch corona, correct? And so, is there a special mask for sorrow? Is there a special vaccine coming for sorrow that I just go out and get the vaccine and then get a jab and a booster and I'm all right, free of sorrow? No. So, that shows it is not extrinsic to the self. It is neither intrinsic to the self nor extrinsic to the self. This is what we call mithya. That which is neither real, because there's only one thing that is real and that is you. So it is not real. And then at the same time, since it is experienced and since it has the ability to cause cause some disturbance, then it is not, you cannot say it is unreal. So it has a funny reality. It is in between real and non-existent. That is what is mithya. Mithya is that which is dependent on I. Sat. It's not independent of Atma. It is a projection of the Atma, so to speak. And this projection is again because of Atma Ajnanam. For the person who doesn't know the I, there is sorrow. And this sorrow doesn't go away no matter how many degrees or pedigrees that one has and one enjoys. Does not go away. As we see in the case of sage Narada, who goes to Sanat Kumara, one of the students of Dakshinamurti, Lord Dakshinamurti. He goes and what does it say? What does he say? He says, I am subject to grief. Narada was not some roadside riffraff. He was a very educated person, very erudite. And he gives a whole list of, and because Sanat Kumara wants to know where should I begin the classes, because he asked for instruction in the knowledge that removes sorrow. Shokam tarati atmavit, I have heard that the knower of the self is free of all sorrow. Please teach me this knowledge. Sanat Kumara says, all right, I will teach you, but I just want to find out where to begin. Should I begin A for Atma, B for Brahman, C for Chit, D for Dharma? Should I begin at a very baby stage, baby Vedanta, A, B, C, D? Or should I go, PhD level Vedanta? So tell me what you already know and we'll take it from there. And then he rattles off a whole paragraph of things that he knows. It's actually one sentence in Sanskrit. Rig Veda Adhyemi. I am a student of the Rig Veda. Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. All four Vedas he knows by heart, backwards and forwards. Everything is in his mind because it is oral knowledge. And then Shiksha, Kalpo, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chandasam, Jyotisham, and all the angas of the Veda, various parts of the Veda, such as the art of pronunciation, from prosody to pronunciation, from astronomy to astrology, and grammar, and then Thesaurus, Nirukta, the first Thesaurus written by sage Yaska. It is so old that even the Vedas are quoting the Nirukta. Very interesting. It's still there, it's available. It's a fascinating book. You can just get lost in it. It is just such a fascinating book. It deals with the origin of the Sanskrit root verbs and all the meanings of one particular the word. It's just amazing. It's a very ancient link to the language and to the culture and the tradition. And then so that also I know all the six angas, the various parts of the aspects of the Veda. Then I know Upavedas. I know the different smaller Vedas such as Ayurveda, Nakshatra Vidya, Shastra Vidya, the foretelling the future, some kind of an astronomy. I know astrology, check. I know this, I know warfare, check. The science of warfare. I know how to string a bow, and I'm a master of how to conduct all these things, how to keep all the powder dry and maintain all the arsenal that we have. So then what is left? Nothing is left. He knows everything. If he could get a quadruple PhD, that would have been it in the ancient times. His knowledge is more than four PhDs. And then Sanat Kumara says, "Oh," he laughs. "Why are you laughing?" And then he says, "Soham shochami." He says, "This is he. I am this person. I am he who grieves, who is subject to sorrow." And Sanat Kumara laughs and says, "You know a lot, O Narada, a lot of nothing." You know a lot of nothing. By which all this is known, you don't know, and that is why you are subject to grief. And all this knowledge that one has garnered, one's position in society, one's whatever one has gathered in the course of one's life, is not going to touch the sorrow. Why? Because the sorrow that is centered on the self is not real. Neither is it unreal, it is mithya. It's a wrong projection which has its home and its source is non recognition of the truth of the I. The non recognition of the I doesn't cause problems. We discussed this in the night satsang. And what did we talked about the animals who are not bothered, who are free, who are however they are free to be who they are. They don't know that they are God. They don't know that if you go and say Tattvamasi, it will not understand anything. The pet dog will not say anything. It will just say woof woof. That's all. And so, therefore, even though they don't know the truth of the self, they are not subject to pain or sorrow unless they are abused. We are not talking of that. We are just talking of a regular, well taken care of pet. It seems to be happier than you. That's why people keep pets. They seem to be compassionate. They seem to have unending love. They are more forgiving, and they seem to be happy with oneself. So let that at least rub off on the owner. That is why people keep pets. Because you cannot get that same companionship from another person who is always complaining, mostly about you. And so the pet becomes, very lovable. Because you crave to bring out that lovable self in you, not knowing that you already are that lovable self. You want to see that, and that's why the pet is there in the house. And the pet is not, the pet is having Atma Ajnanam, all right. It doesn't know that it is the whole, Purnamadaha Purnamidam, it doesn't know. But this ignorance does not cause problems for the cat or the dog. Why? Because there is no free will. The free will distorts it's a distorted ignorance. It is not that the I is not known. If I were to ask a question just now, hello, are you here? What would you say to me? Yes, I am here. Correct? I am. And so this I is not known because it is not unknown, because it is self-evident I, self-shining I. You don't have to consult somebody that you live with. Hello, am I here? They are asking a question in the class. Do you think I exist? No. If you want to incorporate an organization like an ashram, you have to go to the Secretary of State and all the boards, and then get what is called a certificate of existence. We have one for our ashram, the certificate of existence. But imagine if you went to the government office and said, I need to prove my existence. Can I get a certificate of existence? No. You can get a certificate of identity. This is what you look like in this life, and this is called your social security, this is your driver's license, etc. I'm not talking of that. But there is no certificate that anybody needs to give you to prove your existence, because your existence is swata siddha, self-proven. Self-proven existence. Swata siddhatvam asti. And so, in this self proven existence, what happens? This is something which is very fascinating. So, in this self proven existence, then the sorrow that we are talking about is this, it is not intrinsic to the self, but somehow it is well entrenched. Why? Because one enjoys partial knowledge of the Atma. I know a little bit of the Atma. I know a little bit means not that it can be made into parts, but I just know I exist. I know I am. Please do not ask the next question. What is the next question? Who are you? Oh, how much time you got? Who are you means what? Where should I go now? How much time do you have? I have a long story. It'll take a long time to tell you. All my marriages, all my disappointments, and all the things all my failures, and a few successes, everything to tell you. It's going to take a long time. I'm so and so. Soham, another meaning of soham, okay? I am so and so. Actually, that local soham is actually ho-hum, That is why I say always Vedanta, the knowledge of Vedanta is a journey from ho-hum to soham. All this is ho hum. I am this many feet tall. Ho hum. I am, I have 2 PhDs. Ho hum. You can say that twice. Ho ho hum hum. And then, and then I have this. I have that. What is the use? Just like the sage Narada, he knew a lot of nothing. You don't know that because of which all this is known, namely the I. And so, since there is free will, and since there is complete self-awareness in the human being, there is also the privilege to project everything, to project on the partially known I all kinds of problems, to project that. This is what the problem is. This is how it happens. And so how does this projection take place? It is likened to a story that we all know. What is the story? You go out at twilight into the garden and you see something with three bends lying like this in the grass. Immediately what comes into mind? Snake! Eek! First eek and then snake. What to do with this snake? Snake. Fortunately, you are carrying your mobile phone, which is very versatile. It has so many functions. And the next generation of it is even going to make coffee. You know that it is that clever. And so you and the phone has a function. It has a flashlight. So you whip out the phone from your pocket and you shine the light from a good safe distance. You shine the light on this object and you think and you see, what is it? A hose pipe. Oh, I thought you were going to say rope. Yeah, well, I wanted to just check if you were awake. Yeah, because same time snake rope, snake rope, snake rope, rope, snake rope, snake. It's very, oh, what is that? One feels, I know this, I have been there, I've done that, and one stops paying attention. This is a little wake up call. This is actually a hose pipe, a green garden snake lying. You only watered the lawn, you only left it like that with three bends, and then you happened to go out in twilight, and what happened? And then it was lying like that, and you immediately stepped back and thought it was a snake. So, listen to this. This is very interesting. I find this very fascinating. You cannot project a snake on an unknown rope or an unknown hosepipe. Because if the rope is completely not known, you won't see the snake on it. And again, you cannot project a snake on a known hosepipe. If you know it as hosepipe, if you know this as rope, then you will only see rope. How will you see the snake? Then the conditions for the projection of this snake is what? Is the twilight. This is very important. Half seen, half unseen, half known, partially unknown. Now we are talking. Now this is getting very interesting. Why? Because on that half known rope, you can project a snake. On the partially known I know I exist. And then, there are all other scary, even scarier than the snake, other projections on the I am a mortal. I am means I exist. This is the partial knowledge. To this I am you add mortal. There is an identification. I am an idiot. Nobody loves me. And no, I can never get my desires fulfilled. I can never have nice things in life. Some people say that. I can never do this. And everybody seems to be successful. I am the only one who is striving, striving, striving. So you see, this is the problem. If the I were completely unknown, it cannot be a sitting duck for all kinds of complexes centered on the self, including sorrow. And if the I was completely known, as in the case of enlightened beings, jnanis, then again there is no projection possible, because I know myself to be Satchidananda Atma, and so there is no projection other than what I know of myself. And so this partial knowledge, this little knowledge, is dangerous. This little knowledge is what makes one run to ashrams and gurus, because it causes so much problems. Because the sorrow is taken, one owns up the sorrow. That is how it becomes well entrenched. The owning up of the sorrow. It's not like, oh, come here, you belong to me. No, you are me. The sorrow is equal to I. You see, that equal sign is the problem. Like the rope is equal to snake, and what does it produce? Fear. That's what it does. Same thing with sorrow. Sorrow is equal to me. I am sorrow personified, this wrong identification. Even if you were to say, I am subject to sorrow, there is some objectivity. There is a little bit of objectivity there. But if you say, I am sad, so I am belongs to Atma. Sad is an interloper. I am angry. I am is Atma, an expression of the self revealing I. And then angry is a state of the mind with which one you have identified. I am distracted. I am an idiot. I am tired. I am bored. I am now restless. I am now confused. I am now sad again, because it's well entrenched sorrow. It makes more than one visit in this example. So, the I am belongs to Atma, and the other one is an interloper. That is how the association gets well entrenched. Bhagavan Krishna says, I make the mistake because I don't know myself, because I know myself partially. I make the mistake of taking the self to be intrinsically sorry, sad, dejected, depressed, and I identify with the depression, and which is why it is difficult to get out of the depression. It is difficult to get out of the sorrow, because the sad, sorry person is trying to get out of sorrow. How is that possible? Think about it. The sad person trying to get out of sorrow is a very sad sight. Why? Because you make a half hearted attempt, okay. Well, somebody said you have to sit in lotus pose. I can't even sit in lotus pose because I have hip problems, I have knee problems, I have all kinds of situations. But oh, I'm already sadder because I can't even sit and meditate, says one. The other one makes a little more progress, gets into the lotus pose, and then Padmasana, and then makes the meditation mudra and sits, closes the eye. And as soon as the eyes are closed, and before even one Om Namah Shivaya mantra can be uttered in the form of japa, what happens? A whole host of sad thoughts engulf the mind. The mantra is swept away, and then one is doing japa on the sorrow. Instead of, I am Sadatma, instead of the affirmation, I am Sat, which is Atma, I am Sadatma, one is chanting, I am sad Atma. This is what the whole thing is. So see how even the mantra and the affirmation becomes completely gone. I had to, one time I was invited to some interfaith dialogue, and then they asked me, there is one Swami coming from India and he doesn't speak very well English. Would you please introduce him? I said, sure. I said, I just need to know a few things about him. And then I just asked, wondering if I knew him. I said, what is his name? Oh, his name is Sad Ananda. I said, that cannot be right. when I saw it written, it was Sadananda, means always in Ananda. And then here it became what? Sad Ananda. This is what it is. And in a way it is true, because the sadness is upheld by what? Ananda alone. You as Satchidananda is what is behind that sadness. So where is the sadness? And it is certainly not you. You have gone through a lot of trouble to own it up. And the one that has owned up the sorrow is very loath to give it up, because you cannot give it up. You cannot give it up at all. Why? Because one is entrenched in that sorrow. And so, therefore, what Bhagavan Krishna does is that he talks about this is, after all, the chapter which discusses dhyana yoga, meditation. So he gives some guidelines of how to break that spell of identification with sorrow. Then how to do what we saw in the last class, the separation between oneself and one's hurts and pains, the separation between the adult and the inner brats, that in the form of strongly entrenched inner children. That separation is very, very much needed. And so, for the rest of the time today, we'll do a short visualization slash guided meditation. And you can just sit wherever you're sitting. You sit comfortably. And you don't have to go into lotus pose or any other thing. You can just sit comfortably. And it will help to gently close the eyes. And you can clasp the arms together. And we will begin by just focusing the mind on the breath. Nowhere to go, nothing to accomplish right now. I'm just a conscious being enjoying breathing. Enjoying the abdomen as it swells up with every inhalation, the cool air going into the nostrils, the slightly warmer air coming out, aware of everything, affected by nothing right now. Now visualize. I visualize a range of mountains. And I find that in relation to these mountains, I'm an objective person. I'm a contented, non demanding person. I don't wish for the mountains to be a certain way, to be higher. The peaks should be higher. No such expectations. I accept the mountains for who they are, and in relation to the mountains, I can be neutral, objective. Now, I visualize a river. Again, in relation to the river, I am a contented, non demanding being. I don't expect the river to flow faster or slower. Can I retain this awareness of being a contented, appreciative, non demanding being in relation to people, perhaps people in general. As long as one doesn't have deeply entrenched prejudices, race, class, gender, etc., one can be objective to some extent. What about people close to me? I visualize the Father. This is how Father was, is in my perception. This is important to acknowledge because my perception can be right or it need not be right. And immediately I can see that there is a difference between the Father and the river. The river was purely external, an object that was definitely external, whereas the Father, there seems to be two sets of the Father. One, the actual Father, and second, the remembered Father, the internalized Father in the form of unmet expectations. I take the time now to give the Father the space to be who He was or who He is in my perception. The extent to which I can grant this space is the extent to which I can be free of those expectations. Same thing we do with the mother. This is how mother was, mother is in my perception. Retaining the love and the care for the father, for the mother, I take the time to offload my expectations, unmet expectations, in relation to the mother. How to do this? I grant her the freedom to be who she was, who she is. The extent to which I can do that, I can reclaim the objectivity and be, eventually with practice, an appreciative, contented, non-demanding being in relation to the mother, the father. This is what the Taittiriya Upanishad means when it says, Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava. May you be the one unto whom the mother and the father are incarnations of the Lord. You see Ishvara not in the local mother or the father, but you see Ishvara in the parentage. This is how it had to be. This is how this parentage is part of the greater order, the karmic order. The karmic order non-separate from Ishvara, and making peace with my expectations regarding the people closest to me is also part of the order. The extent to which I am able to do this is the extent to which I am free, whole, and the well entrenched sorrow unhooks slowly it lets go its grip, its strangulating grip, freeing me to follow my talents, my contributions, my desires, my ambitions. I can do the same thing with my body. This is how the body is. There are so many things about it I cannot change. I give the body the freedom to be what it is, and whatever is remaining, I take it to the altar if I'm not able to give the freedom to the authority figures in my life, to my own body, to my own mind, to be what it is right now. I offer it up as a prayer to Bhagavan. May I have, O Lord, O Goddess, may I have the ability, the courage to change the things that I can. May I have the grace to accept what I cannot change. May you please grant me the wisdom to know the difference between the things that I can and cannot change. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. When you're ready, you can open the eyes. We will chant the closing prayer. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.